On December 14, 2023, in the quiet suburb of Broomfield, Colorado, a routine wellness check would uncover one of the most calculated and disturbing crimes the department had ever seen. A husband calls 911, claiming concern that his wife isn't responding to text messages. But what officers discover at the scene tells a completely different story. A story of deception, manipulation, and premeditated murder. This is the case of Daniel and Krug, a couple married for over 20 years, whose relationship had deteriorated behind closed doors while they maintained the appearance of a normal family life. What appeared to be a concerned husband reporting his missing wife would soon reveal itself as an elaborate murder plot, complete with a fabricated stalker, sophisticated digital manipulation, and a cover-up that would ultimately crumble under the weight of forensic evidence and detective work. The case raises chilling questions about trust, intimacy, and how far someone will go to maintain control when a relationship falls apart. As body camera footage rolls and interrogation rooms capture every word, every gesture, every crack in the facade, we witness the methodical unraveling of a man who genuinely believed he had committed the perfect crime.
Hello.
Oh, I was just, I'm their neighbor, and they called me. They're like, can you go see if she'll answer the
Oh, yeah, he sent us as well, so.
Yeah, I'm like,
Just next door? Okay.
all right, well, you got this.
Alrighty, man. Appreciate it. $151, send medical, and 110. I need a 4-sentry. I got a female down in the garage. Broomfield Police! Broomfield Police! Oh, shit. Husband said there was a stalker threatening to kidnap her, so I don't know. No, she's unresponsive. Decent head wound.
Where we have more room at the head.
I'll be right back, guys. I'm just going to the car here. Hey, man, just run interference for me.
Daniel Krug thought he could outsmart everyone. The police, the investigators, even his own family. He was wrong. What makes this case particularly disturbing is the level of premeditation involved. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of rage gone wrong. This was weeks, possibly months, of careful planning, psychological manipulation, and cold calculation. And it all started with a ghost from the past that never actually existed.
Well, she's CPR being done in the garage. She's got a good head wound. I think it's from falling down, but I'm going to reevaluate that right now.
All we saw initially was the head trauma. As soon as we cut open her shirt to place the pads is when we noticed the stab wound.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know the backstory. Husband said there was a dude who's been stalking her and threatened to kidnap her. And Martinez was involved, and Martinez just said, hey, this is a big old... I don't know, dude. I don't know the history on that part. Martinez does, though, and he said he's coming in. So, like I told him, you can see if Butler needs photos with this big old house. Other than that, we're just kind of securing the scene and waiting for detectives, you know? I kicked that, yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, that is very interesting. Almost like dude might have stuck around from this way and...
I wonder if maybe the door was unlocked, that's how he got in.
You know what?
Was it deadbolted when
you know what? I don't know. I kicked it and it went pretty easy. So I'm going to say no.
It wasn't deadbolted, it was just unlocked.
The officer's body cam captures the moment everything changes. As he approaches the garage, he discovers something that transforms this wellness check into a homicide investigation. There, on the cold garage floor, lies 43-year-old Krug, brutally beaten and stabbed multiple times. The violence is shocking. The scene is devastating. The officer immediately calls for backup and medical assistance, though it's clear that nothing can be done. Krug is gone. The scene is secured, investigators are called in, and the machinery of a murder investigation begins to turn. And the person who called this in, the supposedly concerned husband, is about to arrive at the scene of his own crime. 44-year-old Daniel Krug arrives at the scene, and from the moment he steps out of his vehicle, something feels off to the experienced officers present. He's playing the role of the concerned, devastated husband, but his performance has subtle flaws.
Hey, stay back, stay back, stay back, stay back.
This is my house. I understand.
Need to get his phone away from him because he's probably got access to this camera, and we obviously don't want him to look at it.
We don't tell. This is a family matter. We're just going to figure out a reunification. We'll take care of them. We'll just make sure that
It's not your fault. I'm sorry I didn't answer.
His emotional responses seem calculated rather than genuine. His questions are too specific, too controlled. Seasoned investigators know that everyone grieves differently, and there's no right way to react to tragedy. But there are tells, inconsistencies in behavior that trained eyes pick up on. Daniel asks about his wife, about what happened, about the investigation. But detectives are already noticing something crucial. His demeanor doesn't quite match the gravity of what's happened. The tears seem forced. The panic seems rehearsed. His reactions don't have the raw, uncontrolled quality of genuine shock and grief. Police begin to suspect that the man reporting his wife's disappearance might know significantly more than he's letting on. In fact, they suspect he knows everything because he orchestrated it all. To understand what happened on that December morning, we need to rewind the clock 1 month earlier to November 2023. That's when Krug walked into the Broomfield Police Department with a terrifying story. An ex-boyfriend from over 20 years ago, someone she hadn't had meaningful contact with in nearly a decade, had suddenly resurfaced in her life. And this time, his messages had turned dark, explicit, and threatening. Krug was visibly shaken as she explained the situation to officers. This man, whom she identified as someone she dated briefly in the late 1990s, had periodically reached out over the years with occasional messages, mostly harmless, "Hey, how are you?" type contacts. But in October 2023, everything changed. The messages became sexually explicit, graphically violent, and increasingly frequent. We're talking multiple messages per day, coming from different phone numbers and email addresses.
I felt like she was keeping secrets from my wife. She didn't tell me about that man. She was disappearing for hours. She kept leaving early, coming home late. Last, where she wouldn't tell me. I asked if she said no.
The content was disturbing. Explicit sexual descriptions, violent threats against Krug, threats against her husband Daniel. The stalker seemed to know their routines, their schedules, their movements. And then came the photo that escalated everything to a new level of terror. A picture of Daniel walking into his workplace on a specific day when snow was on the ground. This wasn't just digital harassment anymore. This was someone physically watching them, tracking them, documenting their lives. Krug told police that she and Daniel had nicknamed this stalker Kickman, a reference to an old incident where Daniel claimed to have physically confronted this ex-boyfriend years ago. The family used this code name when discussing the threats, especially around their children. They didn't want to frighten the kids, but they needed to communicate about the danger they believed they were facing. The police took the report seriously. Stalking cases can escalate quickly to violence, and the threatening nature of the messages combined with photographic evidence of surveillance suggested a dangerous situation. Officers began documenting everything, building a case for a restraining order, and advising the couple on safety measures. What made this stalking case particularly concerning to investigators was the apparent escalation pattern. The messages had gone from mildly inappropriate to graphically violent in a matter of weeks. This kind of rapid escalation often precedes physical violence. Kristyle showed officers her detailed log of every contact, dates, times, phone numbers, email addresses, screenshots of messages. She had been meticulous in documenting everything, exactly what police advise victims to do in stalking situations.
Don't think it's related, but there was, my husband caught somebody going through our garage, like he came home, the garage door was up, and he caught somebody running out of our garage. We subsequently installed 2 more cameras on our property. So I get notifications of anybody that's like walking, driving.
Do those all save?
Yes, they all save.
During their visit to the police station, Daniel participated fully in the discussion, appearing supportive and concerned for his wife's safety. But he also made some comments that, in hindsight, seem incredibly revealing. He described the situation as creepy but not real, suggesting that perhaps he was downplaying the threat. He also revealed something personal and unexpected, that his marriage to Kristyle was on the rocks, that they were going through a rough patch. This admission seemed oddly timed, given that they were supposed to be united against an external threat. But Daniel quickly pivoted, explaining that the stalker situation had actually brought them closer together in some ways. They had developed safety protocols. They carried weapons for protection. They never went anywhere alone. They were operating as a team against this common enemy. Kristyle carried a gun. They took the dog for walks together. They checked in with each other constantly. On the surface, it looked like a couple united in crisis, strengthening their bond through adversity. What police didn't know at the time, what they couldn't have suspected, was that this entire stalker narrative was fiction. There was no dangerous ex-boyfriend lurking in the shadows. There were no real threats from the past coming back to haunt them. The only real threat Kristyle faced was sleeping in the same bed with her every night. The stalker was Daniel himself, creating an elaborate psychological operation against his own wife, building a narrative that would later serve as the foundation for her murder and his attempted cover-up. The digital evidence would eventually prove that every threatening email, every disturbing text message, every creepy photo, all of it originated from Daniel's work computer and phone. He had spent weeks terrorizing his wife, manipulating her fear, drawing her closer to him through manufactured crisis, all while planning the moment he would take her life. The morning of December 14th, 2023, began like any other day in the Krug household, or so it would appear. Workplace security cameras captured Daniel Krug at approximately 8 a.m., calmly walking through the entrance of his office building, waving casually at the security guard like he had hundreds of times before. He appeared relaxed, unhurried, just another day at work. There was no visible sign of stress, no indication that anything unusual had occurred. But according to prosecutors, something horrific had already happened at the Krug home. They would later allege that before Daniel ever arrived at work that morning, he had brutally attacked his wife in their home. The assault was vicious. Kristyle was both beaten and stabbed. The violence was personal, intense, and fatal. After killing his wife, Daniel allegedly took several calculated steps to cover his tracks. He disabled multiple home security cameras through the app on his phone. One camera that couldn't be disabled remotely was covered with blue painter's tape. He sent himself a text message from Crystal's phone about picking up the kids, creating a digital timestamp that would supposedly serve as his alibi. Then, showing remarkable composure, he drove to work as if nothing had happened. He greeted co-workers. He waved at security. He settled into his office. And then, after allowing enough time to pass, he made the phone call that would set the final phase of his plan in motion. He called 911 to report his wife missing, carefully mentioning the stalker they had reported weeks earlier, planting the seed that would hopefully direct suspicion away from himself. Daniel Krug is transported to the Broomfield Police Department for questioning. This is standard procedure in any death investigation, Investigators need to interview the person who found the victim, who called it in, who had the most recent contact. Daniel agrees to talk, initially appearing cooperative and eager to help. He maintains his story with remarkable consistency. He tells detectives that Christyle rushed him out the door that morning because she had a meeting. He says she texted him later about picking up the kids, a text that he allegedly sent to himself from her phone. When she didn't respond to his messages, he grew concerned and called 911. But investigators are already seeing problems with his timeline. They're noticing inconsistencies in his story, and they're about to reveal evidence that will completely dismantle his carefully constructed narrative. The interrogation is a masterclass in detective work, as experienced investigators slowly tighten the noose, presenting piece after piece of evidence that contradicts Daniel's version of events. The detectives begin to present their findings, and each piece of evidence is another nail in Daniel's coffin. First, the security cameras. Multiple cameras in the home were mysteriously disabled that morning through the app, an app that only Daniel and Christyle had access to. One camera had blue painter's tape covering it. Then comes the digital evidence that destroys any remaining credibility in the stalker story. The email account used to send threatening messages to Christyle, the phone numbers that sent the texts, all of them traced back to IP addresses at Daniel's workplace. The stalker was calling from inside the house, so to speak. When confronted, Daniel scrambles for explanations. He claims his workplace has public Wi-Fi anyone could access. He insists investigators keep looking for the stalker. But detectives reveal the truth. The ex-boyfriend is in Utah with an airtight alibi. He hadn't contacted Christyle in years. The stalker never existed. Detectives believe Daniel created the fake account to control his wife through fear and establish a murder narrative. He killed Christyle at home, disabled cameras, sent himself a text for an alibi, then called police. Daniel asks for an attorney, but continues maintaining his innocence. At trial, prosecutors presented overwhelming digital evidence. The jury convicted him on all counts: first-degree murder, stalking, and criminal impersonation. He was sentenced to life without parole. Crystal's children lost their mother to violence, then learned their father was her killer. This case reminds us that sometimes the greatest danger comes from those closest to us, hiding murderous intent behind a mask of concern.